Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first story is titled, Build Loads Exactly as the Tender States, You Got It Boss. I work for a logistics company that deals with a ton of building material shipping. We work with some not-so-great companies who love to send us over tenders that are totally wrong. As an example, the subject of the tender email would be NYC to LA, but the actual tender would read NYC to Orlando. I would usually point this out in an email response that CC'd my boss and his bosses, but I guess that was pissing off the higher-ups in my company, so they responded to build them the exact way the tender reads. I did just what they asked, and for the last week I have been building wrong loads that no one seemed to realize were wrong. Just a few minutes ago, crap hit the fan. A ton of these deliveries were sent to the wrong place and some states away from where they should have been sent. I knew this was coming and had already printed out all the emails I had from last week just to cover my ass. I was basically screamed at for building the wrong loads and costing the company thousands of dollars in truck order not used payments. I had a huge crap-eating grin on my face the whole time, and when I was asked to explain myself I just slid my email printouts forward and said I was just following boss's orders. The looks on their faces when they realized they were the ones that ducked up was priceless, and I honestly wish I took a pic to enjoy that for the rest of my life. They sent me back to my desk and are now in the conference room screaming on the phone with the company that has been sending over wrong info. The next story is titled, If You Don't Clean the Kitty Litter Every Day I Will Move and You Will Have to as well. I make the choice. So I just moved apartments because my previous landlady, roommate, Lisa was absolutely crazy and broke a ton of laws. I could have escalated this situation and most likely gotten my landlady, 40+ F, in trouble, but I'm pretty young, 21 F, so I decided to go the malicious compliance route. Where to begin? From the moment I moved into the apartment, things were going awry. The landlady hadn't moved her stuff out of my unit yet, so I had to help her do that before moving my stuff in. Of course she didn't help me move my stuff in, just wanted help moving her stuff. Now I'm a pretty laid-back person, arguably to the point of me being a borderline doormat, so whatever, cool, I'll help you move your stuff. Then after helping her, she decided to then tell me after I've moved in and after the lease is signed that my cat might not be able to stay because of her daughter's 30 F alleged allergy that she apparently didn't know about when she agreed to allow my cat in the unit. The landlady had 3 very aggressive and loud chihuahuas, as well as constantly babysitting her 9-mo grandson, who stomped and screamed the entirety of his visits. Once again, it's ya girl the doormat, and I just kind of ignored the annoyance I had towards the loud dogs and child because I'm renting, so like what did I expect? I notified her that if the cat hair became a problem then I would temporarily house him until I could find a pet-friendly new place. Landlady agreed this was the best route. Upon later conversations with her daughter, the allergy was super low grade and her daughter routinely pet and loved my cat without issue when she came down to do laundry, so I DK why her mother made a huge deal of it. So now that I've painted a picture of my move-in, let me just add that I had 3 deal breakers. 1. Unit had to be pet-friendly. 2. Unit had to have separate entrance, and 3. If shared laundry, the washer and dryer were to be separated from my unit. It's totally my fault for choosing this place as the entrance was shared and my unit had no lock and I couldn't install one. The washer and dryer was in my unit, which meant if the landlady or her daughter wanted to do laundry they would have to walk through my entire apartment, and now with the daughter's new allergy, things were looking grim. But whatever, I chose this as a favor to my landlady because she couldn't find anyone else. Big red flag retrospectively lol, and I worked with her, so I figured it would be okay since we could carpool. Spoiler alert, it wasn't okay lol. So shortly after my turbulent move-in day, things were tense as my landlady lost her father the previous year and this was her first holiday season without him. I suppose that during my holiday to my parents my landlady entered my unit without permission. She wrote a laundry schedule so I knew when she was supposed to be down there. This was not one of those times, and took a disliking to my cat's litter box. Now I have 1 adult male tabby cat that maybe pees once a day, so I would clean the litter box 2 to 3 times a week, which had never been an issue before. Upon my return home my landlady screamed at me in her car about my lack of hygiene for my animal and accused me of neglecting him, while also claiming her son said he smelled dirty litter in her unit when he was over for Christmas. She demanded that I clean the litter box every day, every other day, which I was basically doing already as it was cleaned every 2 to 3 days, or she would move and thus terminate her lease and furthermore result in mine being terminated because I was leasing from her. Okay, cool. I totally thought she was out of line, but I'm a broke college student, so moving again after only being there for a few months was not ideal. Whatever, I apologize for the issue and any smell they smelled and let her know that I would handle it. My boyfriend was in charge of that chore, so he abides by her demands just to keep the peace, as well as taking it further by adding deodorizers to the litter. Some more backstory is that both her and her daughter are cigarette smokers and would smoke in the house and right by the entrance. All of my guests have verified that they do not smell any litter even if they are standing right next to the box. The only thing they could smell was cigarette smoke. This was after I would slyly prompt them by saying, "I think I smell cat litter, do you? I think I may be desensitized." A month later she sends a text stating that the litter is still an issue and that if it happens again she is going to evict us as we are endangering the health of her grandson. At this point she had began terrorizing me at work and at home due to this issue. She was my HR rep, so I was kind of sole when it came to work because she would be the one that would handle that kind of situation. She's terrible at her job mostly because she's crazy and can't understand that her personal feelings have no place in the professional sphere. At this point I'm like, duck it. I give up. I have jumped through fiery hoops for this woman and she still isn't happy. So we respond to her eviction threat with our 60-day notice of termination of our lease. The landlady did not take it well at all and the atmosphere became more tense because now she had to move as well as she couldn't afford the place on her own and could not get any other roommate, hence me moving in. During this period before I moved to my new unit, she repeatedly entered my unit to do laundry despite it not being her day on the schedule. She wrote, and after I gave explicit notification that she is to wait until I get home to enter my unit to do laundry, I never said no, just not while I'm not home because my cat can get skittish if I'm not there and strangers enter his space. She ignored my request citing that it didn't work for her and would enter my unit. She would also enter my unit early in the morning after I had left for work and would enter my unit to do laundry when I was sleeping. Yal. Anyways, my leaving the lease early really ducked her up because she wasn't prepared to move. She was making baseless threats and I called her bluff. She couldn't find a new roommate, she couldn't afford the place on her own, she was struggling to find a place to live because she's crazy and had super weird stipulations like there cannot be a speck of green in her unit and stuff like that. She wanted her niece to move in, but that would require kicking us out a night before we could move into our new place, which she tried to do, but I informed her of the law and said it wasn't happening unless we got a refund for the nights we left early. Ultimately my parents are amazing and were able to loan me some extra cash so I could move into my new place sooner than the first of the month, so I did that. My landlady's niece had already found other accommodations, so she got ducked there because she was going to have to front rent entirely on her own now. Since she didn't want to refund us for the nights, we would have had to forfeit for her niece. Her terribly mannered dogs had done plenty of damage to the unit before we moved in that the owner of the property charged her $400, which she promptly tried to blame on us even though it was her dogs who chewed the baseboards and her own negligence that resulted in her dogs peeing and saturating a wooden door in their urine. I switched companies due to her harassment, and as of late, my replacement is messing up the job so badly that the company can't even function day-to-day operations. My replacement was my landlady, HR rep's best friend, so it looks terrible on her. They had to hire an additional person to cover the work that I was doing. I, on the other hand, got a new job in the field in which I'm studying. A bonus was that this new job had better hours, double the pay, less work, and was full-time with benefits, none of which I was getting from my previous employer. My new unit is amazing and my new landlords are so incredible. My unit is separated from the laundry and pet friendly, and it has a separate entrance. I'm allowed to burn incense and candles again, which is super nice. The next story is titled, "Follow the Invoice to the Letter?" Okay. I work for a company that has a warehouse. We sometimes have problems with our warehouse personnel pulling the wrong product, packaging things wrong, putting FedEx mixed in with UPS, etc. Errors happen, but they're normally minor and easily fixed. We had one warehouse guy who kept making mistakes, and my boss at the time was getting pretty frustrated by all the shipping errors, so he went out to the warehouse to chastise the guy in front of everyone else. He told him over and over again, follow the instructions on the invoice exactly. Do whatever it says. One of those instructions on the invoice is a note for whomever processes the shipment, and makes the label is the billing instruction, stating whether it needs sent standard COD certified funds, or shipped open. I was the one handling FedEx processing that day, and imagine my surprise when I walked out and there were around 50 packages sitting in the lane ready to be processed, and every single box was cut open on the top. I flagged him down and asked him why all the boxes were open, and he just kinda shrugged and said, "I followed the instructions on the invoice." The next story is titled, "I'm sorry I forgot your discount, we'll double it next time." This happened just last night as I was about to empty out my register, and it made my night, my supervisor's night, and that of my other clerk. Background: I work in the gift shop of an average-sized casino, and most of what we sell is overpriced clothes, costume jewelry, and cigarettes. For the last 2.5 years I've worked here. I have not worked on Tuesday, but with a clerk not coming back from our furlough I've started working them. On Tuesday we offer a 10% discount on all non-tobacco products, and it's a discount I always forget about unless a guest asks about it, because it's not something I think about. Last night 2 elderly women came in and made a mess of everything they touched. Magnets knocked off their display, our mugs shuffled around, clothes knocked off hangers, our ice cream freezer left wide open. My other clerk and I were basically following them around and cleaning up after children. Eventually they split up, and one went to look at greeting cards and one looked at our ring display. I helped the one size and buy her ring, which came out to $25.01, but I didn't give her a discount. Her friend was rang up by my other coworker and she asked about the discount, so he gave it to her. My guest slammed her receipt down on the counter and asked me why I didn't give her the discount if it's Tuesday. I apologized and told her I honestly forgot. I explained it wasn't my normal shift and I didn't think about to apply it. Which is the honest truth. So she leaned over the counter, pulled down her mask and asked me, "What are you going to do to fix this?" As the senior clerk with a trusting supervisor, I have a tiny amount of ability in the shop. So I offered her 2 free candy bars, would have been $3.50 where her discount would have been $2.50. She didn't like that offer. So I offered her a free soda or juice. She got mad that I offered her a drink when she was already carrying one. After a few more attempts, ice cream, pens, clearance items, etc., I just called my supervisor, who came up and spoke with her. With the current global situation, we cannot accept any returns or exchanges. To make sure this does not happen, supervisors and below have had this access temporarily revoked from the point of sales system. The guest wanted my supervisor to void the transaction and charge it again. She got more upset when he explained to her that he couldn't. There is literally nothing he can do to change a transaction once it's been completed. He doesn't have the access, and she was choosing to not understand what he was saying. So she started to insult us, calling us incompetent, asking how many other guests I've screwed over today, saying I'd be fired if I wasn't a native. I'm not. Then she demanded my supervisor give her a note saying that she gets her 10% off on her next purchase, and he laughed at her because nobody would honor that. Not willing to leave without some victory, she asked if she could just have a 20% discount on the next item she bought. My supervisor agreed, saying, "If it gets you out of my shop sooner, I'll make it 25% off." We don't have a way to apply a 20% discount, and we can't stack the 10%, but we have a 25% house discount usually used for employees or guests we really like. After a few more insults directed at me and some under-the-breath comments from my supervisor, she returned with a pair of earrings that rang up for $16.30-ish and got them with their discount, which I took a highlighter to so there would be no confusion on her receipt that she owned us retail employees. I wished her a fantastic evening, and she made some comment about me not scalping anyone in the parking lot. She spent $38 to get a $3 and some change discount just because I forgot to give her a discount on a crappy piece of costume jewelry. My only regret is that I won't be there to see when, if reality hits her. The next story is titled Empty Kiosk. This happens more often than not, but this one stuck out. So I work at a casino, and it happened about a year ago. We have kiosks for the guests so they can print their promotions and see what they have available. I'm normally the one on my shift to make sure they don't run out of paper and running smoothly. One day I get called to put a new roll of paper in a kiosk. As I'm making my way to the kiosk, I notice the guest on it about to print out something, and this happened. Cast me as me. DL as dumb lady. Me, hold on ma'am. That kiosk is out of paper. DL, no it's not. I just saw someone use it. Me, ma'am, it is. That guest came to us and told us it was empty. DL, well, I'm almost done. You can wait a little longer. Me, if you try to print, she cuts me off. DL, I'm almost done. Just stand there and wait. Malicious compliance activated. Me, yes ma'am. I stand there and watch her print out at least 5 different promos and none came out. Then she looks at me. DL, why didn't anything come out? Me, because it's empty. Like I tried to tell you. DL, why didn't you tell me? Seriously? Me, I tried to, but you told me to stand there. DL, well, what am I gonna do now? I don't have my tickets. Me, well, you're gonna have to go wait in another line to get them reprinted. DL, why do I have to wait in that line? Me, that's where my supervisor is and they're the only ones who can reprint them. DL, I shouldn't have to. This shouldn't have happened. Me, it wouldn't have if you had let me put a new roll in it. DL, well, go ahead and do it so I can print them out. Me, it won't work again. You'll have to. Cuts me off again. DL, I don't want to wait in that line. Change the paper so I can get my stuff. Malicious compliance activated Argarin. Me, yes ma'am. I change the paper but I take my time doing so. DL, can you hurry up? Me, I'm making sure it's feeding okay. DL, ugh. Once I changed the paper and closed the kiosk, she pretty much pushed me out of the way and tried again. DL, it's not on here anymore. Me, I know. You have to get them reprinted by a supervisor. DL, OMG, forget it. I'm leaving. Me with the biggest guest service smile, I'm sorry to hear that. Hope you have a good day. DL flips me the bird and leaves. So that was fun. The guests waiting for the kiosks and I definitely had a good laugh. The next story is titled, The Most Expensive Phone Calls on the Planet. Many years ago, more than 15, I worked as a programmer for an oil and gas automation company. This means we would design and build the computer systems for oil and gas plants, commission them, and support the operators during day-to-day operations. Because of this, my company ran a 24/7 support phone. Every week a member of my team would get the phone and be expected to be available to answer calls 24/7. We had enough people on the team that it would roughly equate to getting the phone twice a year. Most of the employees of this company were salaried, and the 24/7 phone was written into their contract. For every phone call they took, they could charge a minimum of 1 hour in bank time. This was a good deal for them, and made the 24/7 phone easier to handle. I was a little different than my co-workers in that I wasn't a salaried employee, I was an hourly contractor. My co-workers would bank their time, but I was just paid out bi-weekly. My contract also stated that if I was being paid by the company, I had to be available exclusively to the company. This was added by their HR department because a few years before they caught an hourly contractor running side jobs for other businesses at his desk. This also meant that if they wanted me to be available exclusively to the company, they had to pay for my time. For 2 years I knew the 24/7 phone existed but had never had to take it because according to my contract, if they wanted me to be available they had to pay my hourly rate after normal work hours to ensure that I was available to answer the phone when it rang. Then, as in most corporate stories, my completely awesome manager left for greener pastures and was replaced with an absolute tool. After a month of being in the office, he decided it wasn't fair that everyone took turns on the phone except for me. He declared that I would be put in the rotation effective immediately. I didn't want to cost the company a ton of money, so I tried to explain that if I'm on the 24/7 phone that means they have to pay me 24 hours a day for 7 days. He scoffed and told me I obviously didn't understand how business worked. I told him he didn't understand how my contract was laid out and that I'm an hourly contractor, not a salaried employee. He insisted that to be a team player I had better take the phone or look elsewhere for employment. I didn't want to seem like I wasn't a team player, so I accepted the phone, and started my clock. 7 days later I handed the phone off to the next guy, and submitted my bi-weekly invoice. It came out to just over $10,000, with $8,400 being just that 1 week of having the phone. I waited about 15 minutes before I was pulled into the manager's office. When I arrived, the manager, the head of HR, and the manager's boss, the head of the department, were there with my most recent invoice sitting on the desk. The department head just looked at me and asked what the hell I was thinking when I gave them that invoice. I explained that the new manager insisted I take the 24/7 phone even though my contract clearly stipulates that if the company wants me available 24/7, they have to pay for every minute I have the phone. The new manager became redder with every word. When I was finished, the department manager turned to him and asked him why he didn't know this, since it's common knowledge that no contractors are ever put in that kind of position. As he was stuttering for an answer, the department head dismissed me and told me to expect my check at the usual time. The best part? During the entire week I had the 24/7 phone. It only rang twice, both during work hours and both calls asking for a specific person in the department. All I had to do was give them a phone number. Those 2 3-minute phone calls cost that company $4,200 each. After that, the new manager pretended I didn't exist and refused to talk to me for 3 months until he was moved to sales in a different department. I was at the company for another 2 years and never saw that phone again. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comment.